going to be. Sure.
All right. I heard a blast from the past on the way to and from Adrian today.
Oh yeah? What's that?
Silvertide.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Not on the radio.
Go on. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Whew.
No, not on the radio. No, it was I was listening to music on Spotify, and it rolled up on the station I was listening to. So
We think you like this, blah 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 blah.
well, so I listened to the new Foo Fighters song. I've been listening to that quite often. And then after you listen to that, it rolls into the if you like this, here's some other stuff it's all what you would think, a lot of Green Day, a lot of stuff from that era. And one of the songs was actually a Three Doors Down song from their first album, and I really loved the first two Three Doors Down albums. I'm like, I haven't heard this song in forever. And so then I wonder what else. So I hit the little button that you can make a radio station from the song you're listening to.
Yep.
And so yeah, I did that, and then like a few songs later, Ain't Coming Home.
I was just gonna say, which one was it?
So it was that, and then that was on the way to Adrian, and on the way back from Adrian, like right before we got home, it played Blue Jeans.
Nice. See, that was the one that I would, if I were trying to get someone into that band, that's like, I like this style. Blue Jeans would have been the one I went with over Ain't Coming Home, but the single, the bigger single was Ain't Coming Home. So I get it.
Are you into Dirty Honey at all?
Is that like a sex thing? Because that's what it sounds like.
No, it's a band.
Oh, well, so it's kind of like a sex.
Yeah.
No, I am not. I can't say I've ever heard of Dirty Honey.
Oh, they're pretty good. They remind me actually a lot of. They've got that same kind of Black Crowes like.
All right, I knew you were gonna say that. Let's just move on to the wrestling. I'm not gonna get fired up about Silvertide and Black Crowes comparisons. I got enough stuff to get upset about today.
All right. Well,
it's 20 years later, and I'm still hearing the same nonsense. It's like talking about wrestling, actually.
Welcome to Kris and Matt's Wrestling Pod 2.0.
Yeah, as you can see, the 2-week break didn't really change anything.
I'm in a slightly better mood.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, which is surprising, all things considered.
Oh, come on. Your boy, he gets the main event another pay-per-view. It'll be a big show. Everyone will be excited.
Dude, I'm not even talking about wrestling. I'm talking about everything else.
No, fair enough.
We had to call it an exterminator because we had a raccoon living underneath the trailer.
Oh, yep. That's no good. That is no good.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Pretty sure it had babies too, and the babies are still underneath there. We're pretty sure. So, yeah, it's great stuff. I
mean, you got to be a heel. Sometimes you just got to get them out of the foundation.
Yeah.
Got to get them out of here. It doesn't matter if they're babies.
Oh, yeah. No. They're gone. But it's just like we thought maybe we had taken care of their problem, and no, we heard the babies last night still. I'm like, oh, all right, cool. Well, we have to call them back. So
fun stuff.
So yeah, we're back after a couple week break. Last week was very busy on a personal front. A lot of stuff going on. My wife's grandfather had passed away, and the funeral was last week, and and with the combination of my wrestling state of mind I was still in, like I just couldn't have the time. Wouldn't have done us any good to put out an episode last week because I didn't keep it up with anything for that entire week. So yeah, but we're back this week, and we're gonna, as Matt's shirt might suggest, we're going to spend some time on the old AEW today. Do you want to start with him, or do you want to save it?
Oh, whatever you want to do, Christopher. This is your ship. I'm just along for the ride this week.
Your name's on it, too.
Everything I have to say about the $52 million man,
oh, Jesus Christ.
I can get it out whenever I need to.
Well, let's get it out of the way. But before we get it out of the way, please subscribe to the channel, musicandmoonsalts.com. and leave a thumbs up on the video. Yeah, that's about it. I don't think we'll have to see. I might just not continue doing the audio feed. Maybe I will. We'll see. It seems like we get all our views. Seems like I'm the only one that listens to the audio. Like I listen back to see what kind of an idiot I sound like each week. And I like, it's like me and one other person. So
Sure.
Not sure if it's really worth my time to post the episode to another thing, but we'll see. I might keep doing it. But so yeah, all right, let's talk about your boy. He's on his way back. They're creating a whole new show for him. Go off, King.
All right. As much as I want to get on here and actually like gloat and rub it in people's faces, it sounds like, and nothing is official, but it sounds like June 17th is going to be the first. Collision is going to be the name of the show on Saturday nights, and they're going to have it at the United Center, and they're already trying to sell the building out on another CM Punk rumor.
Gee, where have I seen that before?
Right. Look, as much as I know you dislike the guy, I think all of this kind of boils down to the fact that he's still the most, he's the biggest draw in the company, and it's clearly not even close. I mean, the reporting is so hit or miss that we don't know exactly the reasons why, but it sounds an awful lot like Warner Brothers basically was like, we want another show and we want CM Punk because the numbers show the ratings were better with him. The ad buys were better with him. The pay-per-view buys were better. Like he's a proven draw. And if they're interested in more content from AEW, they obviously wanted to do well. And if they're going to give, it sounds like the average show on TNT gets $1 million for every 2 hours or $500,000 for every hour of content. They're going to give AEW $50 million. They want to make sure that the biggest star in the company is available to the roster. At least right now.
Yeah. It's tale as old as time is wrestling. Doesn't matter how big of an asshole you are. As long as you do your job right, you always have a spot.
Right. It's the old, the only thing that's real is the money and the miles. And the fact is none of the other people in AEW have been a financial success, at least what they've shared publicly,
right? Like
CM Punk. So it makes sense that given everything that's kind of come out in the last 6 or 7 months, when the money came involved to it, everyone kind of went, okay, let's put our egos aside. There's money to be made here, and it's actual money that we can realize without hoping fans come along for the ride. If they sign the deal and they get the rights, that's money in their pockets no matter what. They don't have to hope that fans welcome. They don't have to hope that fans welcome him back and that people want to see CMFTR versus the Elite. They've already got a paycheck for it.
Right.
So from that side of it, I totally understand it. As a fan, I'm excited, but I'm worried. I'm curious, but I'm anxious. I could see this going really, really well, and I could see it going really poorly right away. And they just see, as a company, it just seemed to feel like they're starting to pick up the pieces, so to speak, from September. I really hope that these grown men can put their egos aside and realize like having him in the picture is better for everybody, and he can put his ego aside and realize that like not everyone thinks he's the greatest thing in the world, and just because someone doesn't like you or has said something about you in the past, it doesn't give you free reign to just burn everything to the ground because you are the draw that you know you are.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, look, I have my issues with the guy, but there's no denying like what a draw he is and stuff like that. So yeah, no, I'm totally my again, if they're willing to give you an if Warner's giving you an extra $50 million for 2 hours more a week, you do it. But much like, Raw going to the third hour 10 years ago. And, it's just, that's a lot. That's a lot on Tony's plate, between Dynamite and Ring of Honor. We've seen what's happened with Rampage. And look, this new show, by all accounts, sounds like it's going to be live. So that it has that going for it. And even though it is a Saturday night and they're going to run into big issues come, college football season, as far as ratings go, but, it's at least it's prime time and not 10 o'clock at night like Rampage is. So I don't think it's going to be quite, I think it has a better shot than Rampage did of succeeding. But, and I'm glad, it's kind of sad. Like, if Warner wanted the extra show regardless, that's, then that's one thing. But, there's a lot of theories going around that this is basically, Punk will have his show, the Elite will have their show, and they don't have to cross paths, and everything will be hunky dory. And if that, if that were the motivation, I'd be like, I don't think that's really worth it there. But the money does make it worth it. So we'll see how it goes.
I think the narrative being spun that Punk, they're giving Punk his own show too. I know both of us didn't want to get into like dirt sheet reporting and stuff, but I think a lot of that is coming from these wrestling journalists who have a financial incentive for this story to keep going along, because every time a new little piece comes out, every time someone's like, I got an exclusive report coming this afternoon, don't forget, it'll be up. And it's 3 lines of stuff that's pretty much already been out there, and it's not sourced to anyone directly into it. Every time that comes out, people flock to it and they talk about it and they go to the websites and they just keep driving the clicks. So the gentleman with his newsletter that everyone is very familiar with has a very much financial interest in this story going on forever. So it's interesting to me that now that the deal is pretty much done and he's coming back, well, now there's a report out there that, well, it wasn't that Punk didn't want to apologize or refused to apologize. It's that he was told not to talk to anybody in the Elite, and he didn't want to be, they didn't want him making contact with anybody. That's completely different than the narrative that's been spun for 6 or 7 months.
Right.
So I think what's interesting about this from that side of it is I feel like there was an effort for months to make it out like Punk is a bad guy. Punk is the problem in the locker room. And so when this idea of a show came along, it was, well, they're rewarding his bad behavior because he's such an egomaniac. And when it really comes down to what's best for the company is for him to be involved. Mm-hmm. And you'll notice now that the money is there and that he's coming back, well, suddenly Mr. Jericho doesn't have a problem working with CM Punk. And when there's a pool that has $52 million in it that can suddenly be drawn from, well, now he's willing to sit down. Now he's willing to have a conversation. Now he's willing to let bygones be bygones, because the ultimate carny is once again making a move to benefit himself off of everyone else's work around him.
Sure. Makes sense.
Sure. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks for the feedback. No, appreciate it.
Yeah, I just, it is what it is. I don't get too worked up about, the machinations of one Chris Jericho. So,
I thought that's what we were going to do when we started talking about AEW later.
No, I mean we will talk about him, but yeah, it's gonna, like I said, it's we'll see how it goes. Whether they're going to do, I hope what this does, and I'll expand on this a little more as we get into some of the topics. I hope what this extra 2 hours does is not only gets more people on TV other than the same handful of people that, they seem to focus on. I also hope this allows them to let Dynamite breathe a little bit and do some supplemental storytelling for your feuds with video packages. There's a lot of stuff right now that they're relying on the hardcore fan base and some of these fan accounts that put all the pieces together and put it in a nice, neat Twitter thread. AEW's relying on that for people to get filled in if people aren't watching all, the control centers and the darks and elevations and the BTEs and all that kind of stuff. So I hope there's some more, they're able to flesh out stories a lot more, so that when a story does take, 4 months to develop, it's not as kind of alarming and not as knee-jerk when things do happen.
Yeah, and I think, too, it'll give them more opportunity to go back to some of the way the show was presented in the first, I'd say, before the pandemic especially, where you had more like the backstage segments where, like, there would be brawls and, oh, there's Orange Cassidy in the stall just kind of hanging out, like, oh, it's more of a reality, like, yeah, the guys are hanging around out back, and when these brawls happen, sometimes they cross paths, stuff like that. The street fight with the Best Friends and Santana and Ortiz. It feels like they haven't done a lot of that sort of stuff for a long time, and I think with 4 hours to fill, hopefully they can go back and, like, what were we doing early on that maybe we could get into a little more. I think also, and I'm sure we'll get into this when we talk about AEW's this week, is if you have more time to fill and you do more packages, you can do better promos for some of these guys that clearly have no business being in front of a live audience and help them get over that way. That's something else I feel like is missing with the product. Too often they're like, we're going to throw to Renee Young for an interview, and then they do it and it's just flat. And you could tell, like, if they just had a pre-recorded segment of this that was a little better and more thought out and more polished, it would do better for the talent. So hopefully with the extra 2 hours, they go to that just a little bit more too.
Yeah. Well, then let's start with that. What I kind of wanted to do today was there's 4 things that specifically happened on Dynamite, but they're 4 of the things. 3 of them are big picture things that I'm really interested in. The one of them was a new development this week that kind of caught my eye. But there's some things going on that I, in theory, I'm really into, but I'm not sure I'm crazy about how they've gone about executing it right now. And we'll just start with what you were talking about with the opening promo with the pillars, and then and that rolled into the main event of Dynamite this week. That opening, unlike the one the 4 of them did, a few weeks back when MJF did his rebar mitzvah, which I think we both really enjoyed that one. This one was not good. It was. It was tough. It was tough getting through.
Yeah.
And I'm not a guy that says, there's a lot of people that are like, well, AEW should never open the show with a promo. I'm not that guy. If you do it sporadically and do it right, it has impact. If you do it every week, that's when it gets old and monotonous and boring. I don't think Jungle Boy or Jack Perry or whatever you want to call him now, I don't think he's the one that you want to necessarily start off a 2-hour show with on the microphone. Because he is not polished. We'll go with that.
Yeah. Continue your thoughts, because I'll respond once you've kind of gone through there.
Yeah, no, that was pretty much it. And then you bring everyone else out, and Darby was a little better, but not much. And I think Sammy's, out of the 3 of them, probably the better talker, because he's been around Jericho for the last 4 years or whatever. So he's picked up a little something, but Yeah, none of it was, and a lot of it was the same stuff that they said 4 weeks ago, too.
Yeah, it's so. I like the idea in theory, like you were saying. But when the first promo happened, I was like, "Wow, that was really good. They're going with this. Great. They're ready to tell this story." And I think as we've seen it progress, what this has really done, and I don't think this was on purpose, it has really just shined a light on how much better MJF is than the other three, and how the other three aren't ready for prime time, so to speak. You just mentioned Jungle Boy. I like things about him. He's clearly out of his element on the microphone. And Chris, I want you to do me a favor and name me 2 Jungle Boy matches that you've gone back and was like, that was a banger. I want to go watch that again.
To be fair, I don't do that with any current wrestling. So
fair enough. But when I posed that question to myself, I couldn't. None of the Adam Cole stuff was fine, but none of those matches. You might be able to say the match they had against the Bucks for the tag titles on pay-per-view. But outside, there's just nothing memorable about him in the ring either. Sammy is a 3-time TNT champion, but I don't feel like he's at even close to MJF's level. And Darby is maybe the most popular of the 4. But as you were kind of hinting at, he was a little better on the mic. What is Darby Allin known for in terms of wrestling? High spots, which is by design. It's what he does. It's what makes me I love his character. But when presented next to MJF as like the pillars of the company, you could name 8 or 9 acts off the top of your head that are better suited to be at the top of the card with MJF than the other 3. I mean, I would argue Orange Cassidy is more of a pillar than Jungle Boy is.
Yeah.
So it's really disappointing to see that this in theory could be a really good story. I just don't think the other guys are ready yet. And every time they're out there with Max, it just, to me, it feels more and more like he's at a different level than the other 3.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone buys any of the other 3 or whomever ends up facing him at Double. No one, that person isn't knocking him off for the title.
No. Well, short, and he's not going to be back till after Double or Nothing. Short of Punk, there's no one right now. I knew Bryan wasn't going to win at Revolution. There's no one right now that they could. And I've been saying that since before Revolution. There's no one right now, who if you match them 1-on-1 with MJF, I think is going to beat him for the title, because I think he's holding on to it for a while. So it doesn't really matter on that front. But yeah, it feels like they're trying to have MJF pull these other 3 up to his level, and I don't think it's working. I think it's working the opposite right now, which sucks, because I really, like I said, I think I still am I hope they do the 4-way, somehow get there. They announced some tournament between Darby, Sammy, and
right
Jungle Boy. Sammy and Jungle Boy main evented Wednesday. It was a pretty good match. And then they did this thing earlier tonight where Max gives Sammy a blank check, and I didn't quite. This is all confusing. Someone who's watched the show and paid attention, these 2 guys hate each other's guts, all the way back to when MJF joined Inner Circle.
Yeah, why would Sammy trust anything about him?
Yes. And now all of a sudden they're at the end of the show, they're acting like they're best friends all of a sudden. Again, as someone who's watched the show consistently over the years, I'm okay, without anything other than MJF handing him a blank check.
Yeah, and it's if you want to sell me on Sammy knows he's not to be trusted. he's just going along because it's guaranteed him a shot at the main event at Double or Nothing. Like, well, then you got to do the little wink and a nod at least once of like, Sammy's not all about this, but he realizes he has an opportunity.
Right. And again, like, how many times can we do the MJF buddies up to someone and then turns on them thing too? You know, because that's where this is. Unless Sammy somehow gets the jump on him. But even then, like, Sammy's a heel too. So why do I care if he gets the jump on MJF?
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. Like and this will be a recurring theme. Like, they have time. Like, there's still 5 weeks to Double or Nothing. So it's not like that there's some urgency, but I'd like them to like start solidifying things more than 2 weeks before the pay-per-view.
Yeah. So you can do promos like about the individual matchup itself. And I don't know.
Sell me why I need to spend my money.
Right. Like, okay, so we know it's Darby versus MJF. Let's pull a nice 3-minute video package together, cut with interviews that shows the history of these two men, and then play that 2 weeks before, and then the week before the pay-per-view, you can have the big come together one last time. But it's the formula is stretch it out 2 weeks before the pay-per-view, confirm your match, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And hey, look, it's worked for them because their pay-per-views always deliver, and at least in the eyes of most fans. So
yeah, no, that's great. I mean, and like look, they have a loyal fan base that's willing, for the most part, that no matter what, they're plopping down that $50. I'm no longer willing or are able to really make that choice. Like, I need to be more, or I'm choosing to be more judicious with my wrestling spending. So, yeah, they got to have something I really want to see in order for me to plop that money down. So,
well, and what it's not, for me, it's not just about the money. It's why I don't watch Dynamite and Rampage every single week. I didn't watch Dynamite this week. I fast forwarded through it, got to the stuff that I was interested in, and didn't pay attention to the rest of it because it's week after week at times of stuff that I'm like, I'm just waiting for you to get to the point of where it looks like you're going. And when they drag it out for so long, it's all right.
Right. Any more thoughts on the world title picture before we move on?
No.
All right. Well, let's move on to the TNT picture. Wardlow got his rematch against Hobbs and won the title again. Okay. But now he's got Arn Anderson, which I love Arn Anderson, so I'm happy to see him back on TV.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
Why wouldn't I?
I don't know. Arn's been hard up for work after neck tattoo dumped him. Hasn't had anything to do. He was such an important legend, so loved, so important to the Nightmare family. I'm out of here, kid. I'm going back up to Stanford. Tough break.
Are we getting a new Four Horsemen?
I don't know. I hope not.
He talked about, Arn mentioned the Four Horsemen by name in his promo, which I think he owns all the trademarks to that. I think, thanks to one Mr. Conrad Thompson, and it seems like we might, if not a quote unquote Four Horsemen, it seems like we're getting another group with Wardlow in it. Penta came down for some reason. So sure, let's throw the Lucha Brothers in another faction. Like,
why not?
Yeah, this was, and then again, I don't know why you take the belt off Hobbs already. But they did. Like, I don't know how you get to a point where this ends, because now it just seems like they're just in this cycle of one of them beats the other one, and then the other one comes back for revenge, and then like we just keep going and going and going.
That's look, and this is, I'm not saying this to take a shot at Cody, because Lord knows I like to take my shots at Cody. It's been this way since he was the TNT champion. It's been the story of the belt from the start. It just bounces back and forth between a couple people, and then one person will hold it for a few reigns, and then it bounces back and forth between that person and whomever beats it. This is a prime example of a title that is just a prop. We want to give powerhouses matches a little more oomph for a few weeks. Throw the belt on him. He'll get the graphic up. We can say, don't miss Powerhouse Hobbs in a TNT title match tonight. And it gives it a little more pizzazz when they put up the match graphic every week. But that title has been meaningless for at least a year and a half now, because it bounces back and forth too much, and it doesn't really elevate anybody either. It used to feel like it meant something, and it doesn't.
I feel like after when they did the whole back and forth with Sammy and Scorpio, I think that's where it felt like it really took a hit.
Mm-hmm. But before that, it was Cody and Malachi, and Darby and Cody, and then Darby and Joe. Like, just well, no, that wasn't before it, but
no, yeah. And Darby but Cody and Malachi wasn't for the TNT title. That didn't involve the title at all.
I thought it did. I thought it was in the middle of Cody's reigns of having it and then not having it. Okay.
No.
My apologies.
So, yeah.
But it continued with him and Sammy after the fact, where they bounced it back and forth a couple times, and it's really hard to I think, especially when you look at this most recent case of, like, well, they gave Hobbs the big win, so he gets the shot at the title. Then he wins the title. He's got QT with him. It's supposed to be like a relaunch of Hobbs, and that was 6 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's kind of back. Oh, Hobbs has got like a lackey that no one really cares about, and he just lost to Wardlow, who's been hot and cold for at least a year now, or for about a year now.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't think that title is going to help either one of them, because they don't know what they want to do with either of those guys.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. But I'm still pro Wardlow. So I'm kind of interested to see what this pairing with Arn brings about. Who they kind of add to the mix here, and see where it takes them. I'm not saying it's going to be anything, groundbreaking or anything like that, but hopefully it's at least entertaining.
I mean, you would think, though, if they're going to tease the Four Horsemen, it would be a central part of the show. But if you bring the Horsemen back, I don't even know. Do you make them heels? How many heel factions can you have in the company? You make them baby faces. They're still going to be behind the Elite. They're still going to be a number 2 at best faction.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that really do for you?
Right. Yeah. No, all good points.
Thanks.
Yeah. Let's go here. So again, one thing I'm interested in and I'm excited about: Adam Cole and Chris Jericho. I called this.
You did. You nailed it. Unfortunately.
Way before Adam Cole was even ready to come back. I'm like, when he comes back, his first feud is going to be with Chris Jericho. And
why did you think that?
Just a hunch. It was more than anything just a hunch. But honestly, and like, this is like, look, I get it. I get that, especially current day Jericho's not everyone's cup of tea. Depending on the week, he's not my cup of tea. It is what it is at this point. But I also recognize, like, what his stature and standing is in the business, and also being the Adam Cole fan I am. I've listened to countless Adam Cole interviews where he's specifically said that a dream match of his would be against Chris Jericho. So, like, this is obviously something that Adam wants. So, sure, I'm all about it. And like the premise for the angle on Wednesday, I like, but they just didn't go far. Like, so they do the thing, you know, they come to blows, you know, after exchange of words, whatever. Garcia runs down, and turns the tables. Britt comes running down because they're in Pittsburgh, so, you know, and they got to promote the reality show after Dynamite. So she comes down to save her boyfriend, and this leads to the Outcasts coming out, and they shackle Adam Cole to the bottom rope and make him watch as the Outcasts beat up Britt Baker. But like, they hit her with a kendo stick. Like, one of
on the back.
Britt's most famous match is like this bloody brawl with Thunder Rosa. Like, you got to do something more than just hit her with a kendo stick a couple times. And God bless Adam, he was trying to sell it, but it's just like all I was like, this isn't what they're doing. Doesn't warrant this reaction. Like, and like afterwards, you know, I'm so sorry. I'm like, she's gonna be fine. Like, if they wanted to really, like, if they would have taken one of the spikes off of Jericho's clothing,
there you go,
and had them, you know, poke her in the eye.
The problem is, and I'm sorry to interrupt you here, but the stuff you're pointing out, the problem is it's been done up and down the card so much that it's lost all impact. And there's clearly not the left hand talking to the right hand about like, okay, we're doing this in our feud, so you need to find something different. Like, someone's not managing the talent enough to be like, no, they're doing something like this. We need to do it different. And here's how we're going to get there.
Well, I think
you know what I mean?
I think more than likely what happened is like, this screams to me like, oh, we're in Pittsburgh, we should do this angle. Like,
yeah.
So by the time they came around to this, like, they couldn't go to BCC and all them and be like, hey, can you not do something with the eye? Because we're going to do something with the eye.
Right. And I know the stuff with Kenny.
Something to the eye, like, again, something more dastardly. Like, even, Judgment Day giving Beth Phoenix the concerto a few months back was way more, like, dastardly.
It would have been more effective to take like a cinder block and put it over Britt's hand and smash it with a chair so that she can't use the lockjaw for 6 weeks or and she can't do her job as a dentist or something like that. No, I think you're absolutely right.
Pull her teeth out.
Calm down there.
It could be a fake one. I'm just saying, like, something.
Sure. Yeah, I go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, again, like, this angle, like, variations of this angle do work, but you gotta ramp up the danger factor a little bit for me to buy in.
Well, and the other thing and this is nitpicking, but why was Britt out there to begin with? The Outcasts weren't out there to begin out there when Cole was getting beat up. Wouldn't it have made more sense if when Garcia came out, Anna JAS was there, or Ty Mello, like Ty Conti, one of the women in the Jericho Appreciation Society. So there's a reason for her because for what's it been, 16, 18 months now, they've kept Britt and Cole pretty much as apart from each other on TV. Why all of a sudden he was getting stomped in the corner? It's not like he was getting attacked like you were saying. It's not like they had his neck in the chair and they were threatening to break his neck or anything. So she had no reason to be out there to begin with. And then the Outcast just happened to be under there waiting. Like, logically, it was like, she didn't need to be out there to start with.
Yeah, like that part, like I didn't really like. Again, knowing they've got this reality show that they're hawking big time, and Adam and Britt are big parts of it. So that's reason number one.
Austin and Britt. Remember.
Sorry. And secondly, like, again, they're in Pittsburgh. And like, look, like, what Britt's going to go down there, like, what's Jericho going to do? Jericho's not going to hit her. So, like,
that would have made more sense than what they did, in my opinion.
You can't do that in 20. You can't do that. So, yeah, I get your point. There were definitely better ways to go about it, but it just, I don't know. So are the Outcasts JAS affiliated now? What do we got going on here?
Well, and if they are, or even if they're not, doesn't it make the other two females that are part of the JAS look like we needed someone who could really handle business, so we had to call in the Outcasts.
Right. Well, again,
because
like,
we can't trust.
It's this, like, you can only focus on one. Britt's in a feud with the Outcasts, so it could only be the Outcasts. It's one of those type things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't. There's no delineation. There's no deviation from. You're only allowed to focus on. We only have enough bandwidth for like 4 women at a time, so
yeah,
it's got to be these.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's true too.
But yeah, I mean, look, I'm looking forward to the match when they eventually get there, probably at Double or Nothing. So maybe they'll do a mixed tag.
I mean, that seems like it is a possibility.
Could be. That way you give Jamie a title defense at the pay-per-view and do Adam and Britt versus Jericho and Saraya or something.
Yeah, and I don't hate that. I just
I'd rather see the one-on-one match, but
I mean, for me, I would rather not see this entire program. But I get it. Look, man, like you said it earlier. Depending on the week, Jericho's not your cup of tea. I'm just I worry that this isn't going to be a 6 or 8 week program, and that this match is going to go all the way through to like All Out. And I don't want to watch this. I don't. From everything I've seen from Jericho for the last year and a half, 2 years, I don't want to see this for the next 4 or 5 months. No, I just don't.
You're right. I'm with you on that. Like, I want to see the Double or Nothing match, and then maybe a return on TV, and then that's it. Like, yeah, I don't want this to go through 2 cycles. I don't think that's going to happen. No, I don't think it is either. So, but it doesn't stop me from enjoying the first part of it, at least.
Sure.
But,
and look, all that said, Adam Cole and Chris Jericho in the ring together is going to be just fine to watch. Mm-hmm. Like, it's going to be a great match. I'm not trying to say it'll be the drizzling shits or anything. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just not what I want to see, especially because I just want to see Cole.
It's funny too. It's kind of like the Jericho Shawn, but in the reverse this time. So yeah, like like it's really like I'm into it. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But all right, let's finish up here with the Elite. Maybe they got a new member, possibly. And this is what I was talking about earlier with not everyone's up on everything because they don't watch all the other programming. I am a BTE lore enthusiast. I love it. I love all the I just love that entire story and everything. But none of that's translating to TV. And so I can totally see how other people are not as invested or whatever. Because they're not, at least what I've seen. Again, like the last couple of weeks, I've kind of not really been locked in on the TV product. So maybe they said something that, or made some allusion that I wasn't aware of. But they haven't really played up Kenny's basically flat out unwillingness to reintegrate Hangman into the fold. They haven't really hit on that at all on television. So eventually that's going to happen. This adding to Don bringing out Takeshita it's a nice little fork in the road or speed bump, because again, we still have 5 weeks. But it's got to be Hangman, right? Hangman's got to be the fourth man.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way: if Hangman's the fourth man, BCC versus the Elite is the main event of Double or Nothing.
See, I think it all depends, because I feel like they're going to do another one of those Anarchy in the Arena matches.
Even better, because that was the best match on that show last year. So even better.
Sure, it'll be the best match, but I don't think it's your main event. I don't know how to feel, like, to be honest. And I said on the show a few weeks ago, give me 6 more months of Hangman and Moxley. This isn't what I meant, but I don't know. Maybe it's just something about him, but this whole Hangman's around and then he takes these long breaks and it kills the momentum that he's got. And then he comes back and then they spend a couple weeks trying to rebuild the momentum and get people fired up. Like, it's really tough for me to get invested in this when the major parts of the storyline aren't all together ever. And they haven't been since they kind of launched this BCC Elite feud, where like they're all involved at the same time. And it kind of what I was saying earlier, until that actually happens, I'm just not that interested, because that's where it's going. It obviously the Elite and Hangman are coming back together to fight the BCC. So until that happens, I'm not going to get caught up on his Takeshita joining or the Elite's outnumbered. What are they going to do? Like, we know what they're going to do. We just got to get closer to the show.
Right. Yeah, but like you know, the major part, the minor parts either. There's a great. I don't know if you've been keeping up on it or not. There was a great thing. I can't remember if it was this week's or last week's episode of BTE, where I think either way, it doesn't matter what week it was, but it was after the Bucks and Kenny made their return to beat up BCC, and so it must have been this week's. And they're in the locker room afterwards, and they're like, you know, talking up Cutler after, you know, him and Nakazawa's match and stuff like that. And Silver and Reynolds come in the locker room to grab Brandon to film a bit for BTE, and Matt and Nick start giving Silver and Reynolds the third degree, like, where were you last week when Hangman got taken out? Like, you claim you're better friends with him than us. Where were you guys? Why weren't you around? We were at home nursing our injuries. Where were you? And it was like, this should be part of the story on television. And then right next to them, you've got Kenny. Like, Kenny's like, who cares? You can have him. Like, no one like.
Yeah, like, he flat out says, like, we don't need Hangman.
Yeah.
Or. Yeah, F Hangman or something like that. And Nick looks at him and Matt goes, well, I like Hangman.
Yeah.
Like, they're sowing the seeds of, like, they want to bring him back into the fold, but it's not out there for anybody to see.
Yeah.
And when it inevitably happens, they're not going to get the reaction that they're hoping for, because, like you just said, a lot of the audience isn't seeing the story going into it.
Right.
It would have been like if they did the Sammy and Kevin thing in the parking lot, where he's like, I'll always love you. You'll always be my brother. And that was on Kevin Owens' Twitter feed and not the main programming that's literally seen by a million people every week.
So, yes, they do, like, not to do the whole they should do what WWE things, but as an example, WWE will progress stuff online. But then they will show said thing on the television show to get the people watching the television show up to speed.
Yep.
Like, there's nothing, like, again, just because they do it doesn't make it bad. Like, you maybe take a cue from it. Like,
well, and too, like, the story that's being told between the Elite and BCC of, like, well, Brian doesn't think they're professional wrestlers and blah, blah, blah. Dude, Brian has been feuding with some sort of combination of Hangman and Omega for a long part of his time since he's come back. Moxley has history with all 4 of the guys. Mm-hmm. Like, do we really need to drag this out? Like, look, the BCC is a group of badasses, and they don't like the Elite, and the Elite are standing up to fight these guys. And even though Kenny and Hangman have their problems still, they're going to have each other's back when it comes to fighting these guys. That's all it needs to be. If you're not going to show all the other levels of storytelling that are involved with it.
Right.
And it's frustrating when like you have to keep up with 3 different platforms to know what's going on with the story with what 6 of the top 10, 12 acts of the company are tied into this thing.
Right.
Come on. This should be the main story of the company, and it should be very easy to digest. And for whatever reason, they're making it a lot harder than they need to.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I think a lot of it is in the interest of dragging it out. But it's again, I'm excited for what I think is the destination, so I'm gonna hang in there with it. But yeah, like they need to do something. They need to add some stuff to this, because what they're doing right now just isn't sufficient for the story that at least the story that they think they're telling.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll see. But mark my words, though. If Hangman is the 4th man, that is your main event of Double or Nothing. What else is the world title? We just talked about it. None of those guys are main event level. Like,
okay, the main event is still the main event, though, right? Like, just because it's going to be the best match on the card doesn't mean it's the main event of the show.
Okay, that's what I'm saying is, though, what is bigger right now than BCC versus the Elite in the company?
I get to your point. Then I guess you're right. But then I would also argue that none of it is so hot that it's like, oh yeah, that's the absolute main event, because really all the BCC and Elite has been is you attack me, I attack. There hasn't been like one match with the groups facing off, and it all stems from Hangman and Moxley. It doesn't even involve the other 6 guys yet in terms of an actual wrestling match.
Right.
It's just, you beat my friend up, we've got his back. Well, you responded, so we've got him. And well, Brian needs to be a heel again because we let Regal go back to WWE and we lost control of BCC. So we got to give him a reason to be a bad guy. He'll hate the amateurs. Okay.
Right. Even regardless of, like, just the star power involved, like that alone, I think gives it wants it being the main event.
It'll be the biggest, best match of the show, but it's not the main event. The main event is the world title. That's how AEW operates.
Sometimes. Stadium Stampede main evented.
Yeah. 2 months into a global pandemic where they were like, we got to figure some shit out.
Main evented the year that they brought the fans back, too.
Oh, did it? I don't remember. Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, they got to film stuff. It makes sense.
So, I don't know. We'll see. But that's my
whatever. Point. Hey, if they do Anarchy of the Arena and it spills out on the Las Vegas Strip, count me in. That'd be amazing if they were able to go out on the street with that.
That's not in the arena then. That's Anarchy out of the arena.
Fair enough. Whatever. Give me a fist fight with Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson right outside Park MGM. It'd be amazing.
Yeah. All I know is that the big Hangman reconciliation is going to happen in Detroit, and I'm not going to be there, and I'm going to be upset.
Oh, you think so?
I just the way life has been going lately. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Fair enough. I've been there. I get that.
So. But anyways, is there anything else? That's not what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Is there anything else, Matt?
I don't think so. You don't want to talk about any WWE stuff?
No, not yet. Really... Next week we'll do next week's the draft. It's the NFL draft. It's the WWE. We'll do a draft of some sort next week.
I don't know. depending on how that NFL draft goes next Thursday, I don't think either one of us might be MIA if they bungle this thing like they've done in the past.
Nah, I have faith. Which
they need a wide receiver now. We've got history of drafting wide receivers in the top 10. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, but yeah. So yeah, we'll do a draft. We'll touch on some. Like I said, I very casually. I had every intention of at least skimming through the Hulu version of Raw this week, and just didn't end up happening. I played the show instead. So.
I mean, that's literally why I didn't watch Dynamite on Wednesday. It's like I could watch this show that I'm kind of might have a couple things, or I could play a couple of games with MLB and know I'm going to have a good time. So that's what I'm
I played a 3-inning game that turned into a 9-inning game last night.
That happens from time to time, yes.
A bullpen's like dead.
That's it. It's you gotta get used to warming up one of your starters and just being like, I'm gonna use this guy for 3 innings if I have to.
The problem is in those 3-inning games is they like even the starters barely make it through an inning.
Right.
So, but all right. Well, yeah, it's good to be back and not completely depressed. So.
I feel like you stole that line from me from the first episode when I came back.
Maybe. Could be.
Oh, see how awful this makes me feel again.
Yeah.
Could be fun.
Yeah. I'm the healing process has begun, so yeah. It's all good. So yeah, we'll call it a day, and yeah, follow me on Twitter at IbanezChris. Follow the show account at KM Wrestling Pod. Occasionally I do tweet from there and ask for questions that no one responds with. So
I know for a fact you got asked a question, but you refused to answer it. So.
Well, the answer is when we start making money.
Well, then I quit because that's not going to.
Okay. Fair enough. I get it. Yeah. Follow, and subscribe. All that good kind of stuff. And then until next week, see ya.